What's up guys, welcome back, and in this video I want to simply reverse an array, and in order to do that we have to have actual data for the array. So what I'm going to do is um, I'm going to make two methods here. The first one is going to be initialize array. Methods or like basic functions, that's the same thing, and then I want to reverse um, the array. So what I want to do here is a couple of things. I want to say int. Now I'm going to just say number array, and then I'm going to just give it 10, and I'm going to say is equal to, and then now we can also do this here, and we can list the numbers that we want. So we can say 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or we can just use a loop, which I'll show you in a minute to actually do it. And we also want to make a couple functions here for our prototypes. So let's say because when we initialize the array, we can either return it or we can just use this global array variable here. I'm going to use the global one, so I'm going to say void initialize array, like that. And I'm also going to say void reverse array. And so what I want to do here is I simply want to say void initialize array. And inside of here, if we wanted to pass in the array, we could just do int like that, but I'm not doing that because we're using that array up here, which we can access anywhere. And inside of here, I want to do for int I is equal to 0, I less than, and then we actually want to grab the size of the array, so let's do, and if you saw my previous video, I was going over size of. So what I want to say is int array length is equal to size of number array divided by the size of the type, which in this case is a number array of ints, so size of int, and that's going to conveniently give us the number or length of the actual values in the array. And we want to take that and we want to say array length like that, and then we want to say I plus plus. So while we're looping through each one of these, we want to seed it. So basically what we want to do is we want to say number array, whatever the index is, and we want to say equal to that same index. So we're basically saying that 0 position or the 0 index of this number array is equal to 0, and so on and so forth. Now I want to say void reverse list, and then here I want to actually reverse the list. By the way, this is camel case naming convention. So what I mean by that is the first word is a lowercase letter to start with. Then after that, it's uppercase letters for every other new word. So basically every new word after that. And that's just how it's basically done in programming. So this is called camel case syntax. So now inside of the reverse list, what I want to do is I want to take that same array, but now I want to reverse it. So I'm going to have to say temp value is going to be equal to 0 because I want a placeholder value here. And I want to just say for, once again, we want to grab the array length here. So let's just copy this, paste that here. I want to say for int I is equal to 0, I is less than array length, I plus plus. I want to simply take the first one and I want to reverse it with the last one. So actually what I want to do is, there's two things you can do. You can either create a new list and return it, or you can basically swap it until you get to a middle, basically a middle array. So what I actually want to do is I do want to change this. I want to return an array. So I'm just going to say int array like that, because that's what I want to return here. I'm just going to say up here, number array is equal. We can overwrite the values. Then I'm going to make another method called print array, or a function called print array, which basically just prints the array here. You'll see me do that in a second. So I'll just do that. And so here what I want to do is I want to do an if statement. So let's just copy this really quick and get rid of it. And I want to say if the array that we pass in is basically, so we'll do size of new array. And so the size of the new array basically is divided by, or modulus 2 is not equal to 0, meaning it's odd. Then I want to basically do a for loop, but this time I want to go halfway. So I want to do array length divided by 2 and then plus 1. So what this will do is when it basically, as long as it doesn't hit that median, which is what that is, if it's odd, then if we divide by 2 add 1, we get the median number for any odd number. So that's basically what I'm doing here. And until it gets to that, what I want to do is I want to have that temp value, and I want to say new array. I want to say of I is basically, first we want to set it to the temp value. So let's say temp value, value is equal to new array of I to store it in our memory. And then I want to say new array of I is going to be equal to new array of array length minus I. So this basically should give us basically whatever like the index is for this. And so actually, in order for this to work, we will want this to start with a 1 so that we actually don't get an index out of bounds exception, meaning that we grab the index that wasn't part of the array. And so here I'm going to say less than or equals to. And so now what I want to do is basically this takes the index that it's at. So if it's at index of 0, actually that wouldn't work. Let me set that back to 0 because actually we want to set that to the first index. What we're going to actually have to do is we're going to create a counter as well. And this counter is basically going to be used. It's going to start with a 1. And I'm just say array minus counter. And then what I want to say is the first index is equal to the last index. And then I want to say the last index is going to be equal to that temp value that we had in the first index. Because remember, the first index is now overwritten with this value here. So we have to use this temp value to set the next one. Then we want to do counter plus plus so that the counter will be 2 next time, so that we'll have a second to last index. This is going to be a 1, so this is the second from the beginning. And then we do the same thing until we hit that median. Now, just to make this make a little bit more sense, I'm going to do basically, I'm just going to say other index. And I'm going to set it equal to this array length minus counter, just because that way we don't have to put that inside of here because it might be confusing. And then I'll just pass in other index like that. And so now this should hopefully look a little bit neater for you guys. And so after we reverse the list, I want to basically print it. So before we do that, I want to print the array both times here. I'm going to pass in number array. And then here I want to pass in the number array as well. and I'm going to say int new array like that. And actually inside of the reverse array, I need to also pass in that new array up here, that. And so once this is done, we just simply want to take that new array and we want to return it. So we can say, first we can do else, meaning that the array isn't odd. And if the array isn't odd, we just want to just set the values to the new array. So we can just simply do for int I is equal to 0, I is less than the array length. And then I want to do I plus plus. And I simply want to do new array of I is going to be equal to, we would need to use this counter again, and it would be equal to, put this up here again for you guys, other, this should be an int, I forgot to assign an int to that, that should be an int, and let me see here, int other index is going to be equal to array length minus counter, as this will never get ran, so that counter should still be 1 if this clause gets hit. And we want to say is equal to actually I need to create another array here. Let's say temp array of array length to get the number that's already inside of the other array. And I want to say temp array is equal to new array other index, because new array is what we're passing in. And so now this is basically going to reverse the list if it's even. And so now what I want to do is, after this is done, I want to simply, I also want to add the counter as well. So let's do counter plus plus. And so now what I want to do is simply, I want to return this list. So inside of here, I want to say return temp array. And then inside of here, I want to just say return new array. You can make this a new array as well if you want to, but I just made more sense doing it this way as less lines of code. And so now we're returning something both times here. And then now I want to create a print array, which is going to be void. And it takes in new array like that. And I want to simply just print it. So I'm going to say for I is equal to 0, I is less than the array length, which let me grab up here again. You can also pass in the array length as well as a parameter. You know, like I could do comma array length here, but you'd have to pass that in. You can do as many parameters as you want. I'll do array length, I plus plus, and then I'll do printf. Now, what do you think this is going to be? I want this to be basically it's integers, right? It's a list of integers, so we can do %d. And then what I want to simply do here is array, or wait, new array I like that. And then actually right here I also want to do a front slash with an n just to put it each on a separate line. So these are our 3 methods. And so now it should print it the first time. And I can also do like a print statement. I can say printf before reversing. And then I can say after reversing. Oh my goodness. Alright, there we go. And then I'll put an enter symbol there. And so now you can basically see how this works here. Alright, so I actually had to change a few things around. I haven't done this in a while. Forgive me, forgive me. So you can see I've changed a couple of things. First, let me actually give you a reference to what I used. I used this here, so shout out to, let's see, where is his name? Shout out to Pankaj, I think, but you can get it right here. And basically, what I did was something similar to this. I didn't do exactly this, but I did something similar to it. So, what this is basically doing, we first have our in array. We have 10 elements inside of it that we defined. We also have our initialize array. I got rid of the reverse list because it might look a little like confusing. And I have the print array here, and I'm passing in length as well as a pointer. Now this pointer, remember, points to the array. So our number array, if we go here, is what we're initializing. We get the length, and then we say for int I is equal to 0. And as long as I is less than the length of the array, we want to basically set that index to the value. Once we get that array back, because remember this array can be accessed anywhere, we then set that pointer. We have to put these on separate lines. You probably put it on the same line, put it on separate lines because we're setting the memory address. This is similar to saying ampersand array of 0. So you don't want to use the value because that's the star, because that's usually the value. So actually you want to put these on separate lines. So this is going to be ampersand and then the array here, index of 0 to start at the beginning index. And so that's basically a shorthand way. This is the shorthand way of doing it. And so now you can do the size as well as the length. Now the size is basically the number of bytes. That's the length. I actually don't even need this one. This was for the reverse list. And so basically what I'm doing now is I'm setting the right pointer to the end of the array. So the length of the array minus 1 with the ampersand, which is the longhand way of what I just showed you here. And I set it to the beginning index. And then what I'm simply doing is I'm printing the array. So I'm passing in that array, not the pointer. This array here. You can also pass in the pointer and use pointer arithmetic to increment through it and print. But I did number array, and then I did the length of the array here. And what that does is it passes in that pointer again. Because remember up here, even though I'm passing in the number array, it's still a pointer. And so I can do pointer. I did pointer arithmetic. Array length here, less than array length. So we increment each time until it's basically equal to the array length, and then it stops. And each time we just print an integer of the value of that pointer. So now we do need the star. And then we say plus plus or plus equals the 1, which increments it to the next address, memory address in the array. So it'll be like array address of 0, then it'll go up 1 to the array address of 1 because this is a pointer. And then that's basically what we do. And then in between both of those times that we print it, we reverse it. And here we just say, once again, that left pointer, which is the beginning index, as long as that's less than the right pointer, which is the ending index, we basically want to take that and swap it. And this basically just swaps it here. And so basically once we do that, we increment the left pointer and we subtract one from the right pointer so that we get them basically closer to the middle. And then once we do that, we just print the number array. The reason why we don't have to pass in left or right is because when we change this, we're doing left is equal to the address of the first index of the number array. So we're actually changing the address, or basically the values inside the number array itself, instead of making a copy. So because of that, we don't have to pass in left or right here. We can just pass in that same array because we're passing in, after we change the values by using a pointer, we change the values of the number array. So that way we don't have to actually pass in a copy of it. So we can pass in the exact same one. And let me just put another print statement here just to make this look neater. And then what we get after all of that is, before reversing, 0 to 9, after reversing 9 to 0. So I wanted to show it the other way, but I figured I may as well show it the pointer way because that's the way you're probably going to have to do it in class. So this just shows you a little bit of how to do it, pointer arithmetic and different things like that. So sorry if this video is a little choppy and long, but I hope you actually learned how to do this because this is a very important topic in C. I feel like this is the hardest thing in C to wrap your head around. Once you understand pointers and everything else is a breeze. So hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section, and see you later.